Good morning. This is Thomas Sheltra for Moreland University. This is Module 39. Today I'm going to be going over standards 5, 6, and 7. Um, it's going to be quite lengthy just because of the fact that there are so many guiding questions and we're covering three different types of standards. Um, Going to share my screen now. All right, so I'll just go up top here for 5, 6, and 7. Also, if we're going to look at the standards right here, so first we're going to be looking at community of care support for students, and we're going to be looking at creating an inclusive, caring, and supportive school community and environment. This fits into very well into our TL strands here at Basis, especially with TL1, and especially getting to know our students and creating relationships. And it's one of the things that I really emphasize in my teaching and try to support with my colleagues in my department for social studies. Um, and so we're going to be looking through these guiding questions, academic supports, mitigation plans for risks, and then also standard 6. Here we're going to be looking at promoting academic success and well-being from a professional capacity. So this is going to be recruiting and retaining staff, which is part of my school improvement plan for number 1. Specifically, just the when we hire them, the coaching and mentoring part, continuous improvement for instructional practices, and especially using data to drive instruction rather than just to collect numbers. And then here we're going to be looking at giving feedback. So that's going to be through observations and coaching practices that we have here at the school. And then also support leadership from teachers and community members. So this is going to be show you artifact from a PTA meeting. Even though technically our school doesn't have a PTA meeting, we do engage parents in other ways with coffee chats and having different professional development kind of things where we reach out to parents because we are a private international and bilingual school. Community stakeholders at large. We don't have as many as other public schools. So essentially, parents are our biggest and most important stakeholder outside of what we have on the school campus. And then for 7, professional community for teachers and staff. So here we're going to be looking at the PLC, and then also the development of staff. So this again is going to go into our sort of on-site training and other professional development things that we've done, not just here at our school, but it's important to remember that Basis is a network of schools. And therefore, we also do a lot of training with other campuses. And so, that's a great way to continue to learn and grow is with colleagues from other schools. So here we're going to go down. So for standards 5, I really don't want to bore with going through every single artifact, but essentially just kind of look through, like for instance, this is a PD designed for risk mitigation and going over the different types of potential incidences that could occur. How do we, as a campus, go step by step? We do fire drills here at the school, but as part of the module 37 that looked at other risk mitigations, we looked at hazardous materials, we looked at weather events, flooding, so other types of incidences that could occur. And then including in that is, so here's, a procedure for a fire drill that we had, including where to go depending on where you are in the building, and then where we meet and how you line up depending bilingual, international staff, and how we line up, and a meeting point. So those, and then we also have a flow chart. So again, depending on the type of incident, try to zoom in here and not be too crazy, but trying to create different ideas of incidences that may or may not occur. Who is responsible from first seeing the incident to then the after action reports, and trying to grow and learn from incidences that may or may not happen, and just sort of the level of preparedness that we need to have as a school. And then when we go to standard 6 and 7, so here I have a YouTube video that we created on how to hire and onboard staff, what it is that they need to know prior to coming to China, prior to coming to Wuhan, whether you're a solo teacher or bringing a family, what it is that you need to be successful when you get here. And then the next was another YouTube video discussing the types of laws and policies that we have here in China, things that you need to be aware of when you're teaching. Just because we are an international school does not mean that we are immune to the types of responsibilities that other schools are. We have to follow the laws of our host country, and that extends into the classroom, especially if we're talking about, maps of the world, and listing specific places. That's as far as I really want to go into that. Um, the next is the PLC workshop, and how we can design a professional learning committee, as we've already had a meeting with my mentor, Mr. Cumberworth. We've kind of, we are stretched pretty thin as far as like the PD that we have as something that's built into our mandatory schedule. So if we were to do this, this would have to be sort of a committee, excuse me, of teachers and senior leadership that would have to do this in our spare time. There are avenues and ways that we can do this, as I showcased in previous standards with Mr. Appleman, where we went into each other's classrooms. But that's just because we were teaching a specific grade together with students that we're sort of worried about. And so I think that that can be done and promoted on an ad hoc basis, but I do think it would be a little hard to ask teachers to spend an hour, whether it's once a week or once a month out of their own time, when we're generally very busy anyway. But it is something to promote, maybe at the grade level, where teachers can kind of partner up and maybe do peer observations and come up with some instructional strategies for specific students, especially when it comes to ideas for differentiation in the classroom. So those are the main artifacts that I have regarding 5 and 6, or 5 through 7, excuse me. The other thing, we have the mitigation plan. Here is the manifestations that we did for I think it's module 33, module 32, excuse me. And essentially here we see like our core values, our mission statement, our vision, and then tangible manifestations. Here we have our rituals, our boarding, the activities that we do to support students, especially whether they're boarding or they're day students. But the other thing we emphasize, especially with academic supports, is we have evening study. Some teachers will do weekend classes to help review. And so we, really want to build a tradition and a culture at the school that is inclusive of students, going back to standard 3, especially being, recognizing diversity and culture, but also just creating traditions at the school that support students academically and their well-being. Um, Here are some teacher communications that I've had with parents. Um, and just to show you some of the communication that I've had with parents to try to engage with them. This also goes with Standard 8, but I wanted to also showcase this as part of Standards 5 through 7, just to show the type of communication and the culture and the community that we're trying to establish here. And part of that is the constant communication with parents, not just when we identify a student that we're worried about, but having constant communication with all parents to let them know what it is that's going on with the classes that we teach. Here is an example of something that I've done in the classroom is I create a Gatornomics. So we're the Wuhan Gators. So every year I give a workbook to students, and that includes guided notes. And then you can see an example of what students do for homework. I tend to do a flipped classroom model where students are responsible for reviewing the PowerPoints and filling out the guided notes. So that way we do activities the next class to showcase their knowledge. And I'll even do open note quizzes, just to emphasize the idea that they are responsible for taking notes and not just filling out the information, but understanding what it means. And then that next class is their opportunity to either show what they know, ask questions about what they don't know, and for, more understanding. And then, oh, okay. Oh, that's all I had for that. That I had something else. Also, we include worksheets in there that students can use to practice. But essentially, this, for the last couple of years, we've used this, and we've had very good results when it comes to AP. So the other thing is that I don't have it as an artifact with other subjects, but with history, our history teachers in the social studies department, they've really started to add on to the guided notes and the workbooks for selected units. And I think that they've all noticed a difference in the way that students engage in each class. Because we've noticed that generally speaking, students alone are not going to take notes on their own. But if we put something in their hand that relates to the lesson that we're doing, or it relates ultimately to a quiz or a test, then that student engagement is going to go up. And then also, when it comes to parent engagement, it shows that students have things that they need to be doing in order to be successful in the classroom. Instructional practices. So I've showed this before, but I'll always use this as an exemplar, is using a diagnostic test and using grade cam data. Also, AP Classroom has a similar section now where you can break down data, and you can even assign students different questions based on their level. So that's something I would like to dive into a little bit more next year, um, preparing for economics and history with students. But essentially, just a breakdown of the data of the questions that students got wrong. And rather just than collecting the data and just saying, okay, well, we need to try harder, we need to review more. It is specifically targeting what it is we need, what the students are getting wrong. So here you see the correct answer, the main wrong answer, and sort of the concepts that are being missed on why students are getting it wrong. And so then it re-emphasizes the concepts that they need to remember, also formulas, and then sample MCQ questions to kind of go over again the topics that they got wrong, and sort of kind of continuously practice to try to correct those mistakes. And especially as we come up for the comprehensive exam, found that these have been extremely meaningful, not just in economics, but for history class. the breadth of and depth of all of the material that is needed for history. It really doesn't do our teachers any service to kind of cover all of the material over again, and rather this kind of data-driven instruction is beneficial because then we can take the data of the things that the students are missing, also helps to differentiate. Students are, maybe weaker in one area than another. And so that way the teacher can identify those students, identify where they're weak, and then also prepare review materials for those specific students. And so very big proponent of that. Here's a sample PTA meeting. With parents going over social studies material. And again, next year, one of the I forget what standard is. I think it's 8 or 9. But that's one of the areas where I've been weakest as a leader, is hosting an event for social studies. But also, we'll get to that later. But this is an example of how engaging with parents where we can listen to their concerns, their ideas, and try to collaborate on where we can have meaningful change in the school. And so then here is an example of professional development. And so this is going on to the number one, actionable feedback on professional practices, also the PLC, and then support from leadership and professional development. So this covers all of 6 and parts of 7. But essentially, every year we have a summer institute at basis as an example of all the types of PDs that we're doing throughout the week. And then we have on-site training that we do throughout the week. And then as chairs, we also have specific individualized training as leaders to hopefully become better leaders. And I'm so excited right there. And then another is the sort of network collaboration. So once or twice a month, depending on what's going on, we will have network meetings on teams from teachers all of the other different campuses, and try to collaborate with each other on our teaching and getting the curriculum down. The other thing is the peer observations that I've used before. So these are just some examples of the notes that I'm taking as I'm looking at a class, and then giving general comments and feedback to the teachers. One of the things that I like to highlight is just the ability to give feedback to teachers and then also have them reflect on that. Not always, but depending on the class, it's good to get their idea of what they thought of the class and reflect on those practices and maybe think of things that they could try to implement in the next class. The next thing is my evaluations. One of the things that I truly enjoy about teaching at this school is that we are not in a lack of feedback and coaching. And I think that that's helped me become a better teacher over the last 3 years than in the last 10 years that I've been teaching. And also the coaching conversations from senior leadership and also my colleagues. Whether it's been social studies or other subjects, I think it's been very valuable to me as a teacher and as a chair, to have the kind of mentorship from everybody. Things that we could try to work on for next year. Here is sort of an intervention plan of how we can, as teachers, identify students, whether and this goes into also my school improvement plan, but essentially, how is it that we can identify students that are struggling in some way? How can we meet with ELL teachers, senior leadership, our well-being, staff, our psychology staff, and how can we as a school, um, you know, identify those students and get them the help they need, whether it's an academic issue, behavioral issue, um, and then also um, a hopefully a PLC where we can do and coaching cycle where we can work on those areas with students to try to look at our practices and kind of come up with similarities. Again, I think this would work more on a grade basis rather than just as teachers getting together to discuss instructional issues. But this is a sample of what it could look like. And I'll go into this with Mr. Cumberworth and kind of get an idea of what he sees and thinks. But we've already kind of discussed the idea that it's going to be a little hard from the perspective of having it be a mandatory. So I do think that next year when we meet as teachers and bring up this issue, I do think that it's going to have to be something where it's kind of an ad hoc, two grade six teachers identifying certain students that are struggling and kind of coming up with a plan, or maybe more. But I don't think it's something that is going to be well received if it's a thing that we're going to add on to the PDs that we already do every Thursday. That's all of the documents that I have for standards 5 through 7. And as we go back very quickly through all of these, I do think that for the most part, I'm just going to bridge myself between proficient and outstanding. Um, and so, when it comes to the safe, caring, and healthy school environment, I do want to say outstanding, but I would say that it's going to be more of a proficient. Because there are certain things that I do over here on the proficient side that I don't do on the outstanding side, especially when it comes to so I mean we maintain records and everything like that. Oops, I'm sorry about that. And so, but the leader works with leadership team to design and implement a school safety plan. So we have that part of it. Um, but over here, some of the issues like the awards presentations, focus on student improvements. We do those things, but I don't have the sort of the artifacts to reflect that. So I'd rather just be on the proficient side. Academic and social support. I again gonna be on the proficient side of this, just because somewhere in between. Um, for managing risks, emergencies, and uncertainties, again, just going to go with the proficient, just because we have all those things in place. And when I meet with Mr. Cumberworth, show the things that we can do to maybe prepare for next year. So it could be outstanding if those things are already in place, but they aren't yet. So I'm just going to say proficient on that. Recruiting, I do think that I'm going to put myself outstanding here because having the types of meetings with Mr. Cumberworth, Mr. Schneider, and recruiting the teachers that are going to come in for next year, and then also creating that sort of observation and mentor and coaching part for my school improvement plan that we've already discussed together with Mr. Cumberworth. So I'm going to put myself outstanding there. I'm going to put myself outstanding on the continuous improvement of instructional practices. So as part of my observation and coaching duties as chair, as far as creating a vertical alignment with our history teachers, I think we've done a great job there, and I'm really proud of all the teachers that have really put in the effort to try to build that alignment so that way every history class lines up perfectly with the skills and the development that they need, regardless of the new subject that they're coming into. Actionable feedback, I'm going to give myself an outstanding on this. So when it comes to my observations, the coaching that I've had with my colleagues this year, and then also giving them the opportunity to reflect and give feedback, and then work together in a collaborative effort. I'm going to give myself an outstanding on that. Um, Support for leadership from teachers and communities. So again, I'm going to go proficient on this, just because we have done things like we've done the parent Q&A, we do coffee chats, and so there have been areas. So the meeting with parents for social studies. So we've done plenty of things over on this side. But I think that things that build into next year. I do say we have bilingual parents, so we have a great set of translators to help out. But put myself proficient on this. For standard seven, the PLC. So again, I'm going to put myself proficient here, excuse me. Working with Mr. Appleman has been great, and I do think, speaking with Mr. Cumberworth, it's a good idea that teachers do this, especially if it's like peer observations in classrooms where they have similar students who are struggling. But I don't think that it's going to be something that's like those sort of interventions are going to be put in place until we have space for that. Um, so here, the professional development. So I'm gonna just put proficient here because it's something that we do. We do social studies PD, but as far as other areas that go into the outstanding part, I don't think I'm there yet. So that's all I have for 5 through 7. Um, Thank you, and I will stop recording.